we got kind of off on a tangent about, environmentalism and housing, which housing is a problem everywhere, not just in Vermont, but it is really bad on the coast. But when we left Phoenix, it was getting really bad there too. Rent used to be so affordable in Phoenix, and then it just became just as competitive as Los Angeles and Boston, and it's just too much. It's like, okay, who can afford to live here now? I don't know if you want to come back on another time and talk about, I know you studied environmental policy in college and with your master's, and you're working for a government agency kind of with that policy. If you want to talk about anything else, or I don't know, but I know we started out talking about the importance of a third parties and why
Yes.
we need a third party in the United States and why we really need to do away with this partisan system and why, both of us agree that we'll never pick a political party because there's no reason to pick a political party because no political party fully represents, at least as it is now, what we need as working class citizens.
Yeah, exactly. Like everything we talked about in the as off topic as we got. No mainstream party would follow those policies in the way that we described. Like, and that's the point, is like the two-party system isn't effective because you can't have every possible policy outcome in only two parties.
Right.
And the two parties that exist are not effective in solving the problems that everyone faces across the country. I just, from a Vermont perspective, like the housing where I'm working now, I'm working a lot with Act 250, which is our land use laws, and our Act 181, our new housing, affordable housing, and development areas, and where new housing can be built. So that stuff is really fresh and present in my mind right now.
Yeah.
So there's these issues that people need to actually think about and realize that you're not alone and feeling like there's something going on where the government just isn't supporting policies that make sense. Like no, you're not crazy for thinking that these policies make sense. Basically, it's the way the system is.
I feel like as humans, we're always striving to be better, do better, make more money, get to the next milestone. And, when I went to college, when I went to DC, I was like wide-eyed, fresh, fresh face, like excited and got to vote, for the first time, like most people do. But then, talking to my peers and just being ridiculed, you know, right out the gate, like you wasted your vote on a third party, like how dare you? And then just seeing that rhetoric build and build and build, and it's just, and nothing's really changed, and seeing how everything has gotten worse, and it only keeps getting worse. I feel like there is a limit to progress, as we were discussing robots and automation and capitalism. Capitalism is dying because it's reached its upper limits. Like in our mind, in our capitalistic society, it says there are no limits, but there are. We've reached the limits. We've reached the limits of everything, right? And I think that the movements of decolonization and third party movements like the Green Party and the Libertarian are really needed, and the Vermont Progressive Party, and people just standing up and being like, listen, capitalism isn't working anymore. And I think that even saying that Christianity isn't working anymore is something that needs to happen as well. And um, I'm really into, listening to these voices who don't fit the narrative, who are discussing decolonization. Those voices right now are really important and will help us to move forward in a way that is more inclusive and is more supportive and is more about humanity and regaining our humanity because unfortunately, we've all been colonized. And it took me leaving the East Coast, but it also took a lot of life lessons, working for the government and seeing how unfair everything really is and just trying to survive. That we all need some decolonization. And that means stepping outside of constructs that we have and just totally breaking them down. And it's necessary, and it's necessary to have voices that are considered other right now, like is really, really important. Um, because capitalism is, to me, it feels so anti-human. It feels so anti-humanity. It feels so cold. you know, you and I and our neighbors and our countrymen and our, people who want to immigrate here, they're not other and they're not commodity. We're not commodity. And I really do feel like the momentum and I hope that it continues because I don't know if you feel it. I mean, I know that you're in a different, you just graduated college and you're just entering the workforce, but you're also a different generation from me. So I don't know, I see that your generation, like I have conversations with people in your, and I'm proud of you guys. Like you guys see the breaks and you see where it's not working. And unfortunately, your mom's generation and my generation, we weren't able to tear those institutions down. But I'm hoping that your generation can like get a good foothold. Like, what are your views on that? Like, you're just entering the workforce and you're just entering working for the government and how are you feeling?
I mean, I was a little more optimistic before the 24 election.
Yeah.
Seeing how many young men, especially, voted for Trump, kind of made me question what my generation's going to do. But
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
Me
the young women
too.
are doing great, and I mean, there are a lot of and most young men are still on the right track. It's just, especially looking at the new members of Congress, the more progressive members of Congress, people getting elected at local levels and state levels, the up and comers. I think
Yeah.
once the Nancy Pelosi's are gone,
Yeah.
there's gonna be a lot of change. It's just the boomers are really holding on to
They're
power,
they
and
won't give it up.
yeah, that's the
I'm
big.
excited about the new political, like, there were there's been trans people elected and you know uh, Muslims and more women and it's just that makes me excited.
Yes.
And you're right. I was more optimistic for your generation until this election. And then the rhetoric of your body, my choice just like sent me like my
Yeah.
rage. I was like, I went to college to study politics and journalism and realized it wasn't for me. And a lot of these issues that we've been discussing, it's been 25 years and nothing's changed. Nothing's happened. I don't know. Like, and I was telling your girlfriend that, when I went to college, we were kind of taught like so I majored in women's studies and psychology. And in women's studies, we were basically taught like the boomers took care of it all. Like everything that's needs to be done for women has been done. But as a, middle-aged woman now, I see that was a lie.
Mhm.
And it's interesting that at a very progressive school that I went to, that lie was being perpetrated. And there's still so much work that needs to be done for women's rights and trans rights and um, like I said, decolonization. And I think that we need more voices. And
Yep,
the boomers definitely need to step aside.
agreed.
It's time for them to retire and,
Hmm.
say, we've done our job. Let's hand it to, poor Gen X. Poor Gen X, they haven't gotten to do anything other than in
Yeah.
technology. I mean, yeah, they've done a lot in technology, but, let them have a voice. Let the millennials, like, even your generation, you guys are new and up and coming, and I'm not sure where your generation, like, why, give me some insight. Why do you think your generation and younger are so radicalized against women? Where do you think that comes from?
So definitely the younger you go. So like depending on during the pandemic, um, how old you were, I think really depends on your like the whole people just don't know how to behave in society anymore. I think people don't understand that this isn't the internet. This is real life, that people have feelings and you're talking to real people. You're not talking to a computer game or to, some random person online who isn't who they say they are. Like it's people don't have the empathy they used to, I think. And as people are getting, like my generation, so like I was in undergrad. I was almost a senior when the pandemic started. So I had the whole, you know, 20, yeah, 20 years of, you know, interacting in society and understanding that people have feelings and to be empathetic and to understand that what you say matters and how you say things matter. And people younger than me who, lost a year or two of high school or elementary school or wherever, I mean, people don't go out as much. People don't, see friends in the real world as much. People don't understand that you can't treat people poorly. And I think that's the biggest issue is people just see women like men see women as commodities now. It's like young men, it's just like, oh yeah, their thinking is, oh, I don't have a girlfriend. Women hate me, so I'm gonna hate women. Versus like if you went out and were like a sane person and were nice and kind and compassionate and interesting and liked to go do things other than playing video games all day,
Right.
you might have a girlfriend. Like it's not women that's the problem. It's antisocial behavior, which was exaggerated by the pandemic. Um,
And then you have, yeah, these influencers online saying like the craziest stuff because if they say the craziest stuff, then they get more views. But like
yeah,
you're saying, that's not real life.
no,
And in real life, it doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman, if you want to be in a relationship, you have to be kind, you have to be interesting, you have to know how to have a conversation. And the biggest thing is you have to have empathy. So that really does make sense to me.
mhm,
Um, because like I was saying, like I understand these, arguments that a lot of these things are manufactured as a way to divide and conquer,
yes,
right? So it's a way to keep us infighting so that the 1% can keep maintain control.
yep,
And I try to like keep that in my mind, but as a woman, I just, you know, it gives me rage. It gives me rage.
yeah,
As a human being and knowing that society as a whole, and especially young men, do not view women as humans. We're just a commodity. It just really, because if we had equality, if we truly had equality in education, if we truly had equality in the medical, realm, if we had equality, maybe it wouldn't create so much rage. But there is really no equality. The equality we have is an illusion. And the rights that we have are so fragile. And Biden not, signing something that could have been signed 4 years ago, it just it incites rage in me. So it is difficult, but I remind myself it's like we have to, keep going. We can't give up hope, remember that there is humanity in everyone, right? Like we don't want the robots are coming, right? The robots are coming, so
Yeah,
we have to do everything we can to become more human, more embodied, more empathetic, and do everything we can to counter the desensitization that we've gone through. Um, so you're right. You're the pandemic and just online, like that's the other thing I'm doing this year is other than creating YouTube videos, like doing interviews and maybe being on YouTube occasionally. I'm not going to be on social media because I do know that a lot of what's said on social media is social engineering and it's propaganda. And just because you see something, especially with AI, like, we're talking about your grandmother, my mother, posting AI things, they've gotten so good, you can't tell the difference between what's real and what's AI.
yeah,
Um, So unless you see it with your own eyes, unless you experience it yourself, is it true? Like, is that even really true? Um, and something that my husband has taught me that's like really helped me with like not being anxious is does it affect you? And how does it affect you? So, and what can you do about it? If you can't do anything about it, why are you worried about it?
yeah,
Which is true. Like, so I already don't watch the news. And now
yeah,
I'm cutting out social media because what's more important to me is having human connections.
yeah,
And, you know, it is sad. I've noticed, that people don't want to connect in real life anymore. It's like everybody is so afraid of everybody else. And I
mhm,
think that's really sad because what makes people strong is community.
yeah. When you're on the line, then you're in your own bubble. You become more and more entrenched in beliefs. You become more and more distance from the at your actual community. You become more hateful towards
Mhm.
your actual community because your online community feels more comfortable for you, and
Right.
they might be opposed to each other. Um,
It becomes an echo chamber and you
that
start
too.
putting other people as other and you start
Yeah,
separating. You're like, well, I'm better than, or I'm this, or I'm that. And it's all fake.
yeah. Because like in the olden days, it would have been this kind of tribalism that would have been one community, like one town versus another in the medieval times. It's like, oh yeah, the people who live in the village on the other side of the mountain, they're evil. Now it's like, oh, the people in uh, the other Discord channel or the other Reddit
Right.
page, they're the evil ones.
Right.
Even though it's like, well, you don't even know them, you don't talk to them. Like, you don't understand where they're coming from, and that's the core of the problem. Is instead of being in actual communities, we're so online that we don't even know like what actually matters. We don't think about day to day issues. We think about trivial, relatively cultural issues that divide us. But really, what unites us is so much stronger, and that's where having more voices, like okay, well, what unites us, what brings us together, and what like the actual division is class, you know what you look like,
Class.
what you do, what you're interested in. Your social status does not matter. What matters is how much money you make, and that's really what people are forgetting, and we need to really go back to that, like working class solidarity that we're really missing. And that's what's leading to the rise of the far right around the world, is that people are forgetting that if the far right wins, then the working class will suffer. It's not, you know, as much as they pretend to be pro working class, they're not. And that's what's really scary for me. It's like thinking about how the working class is willing to throw away any of the progress that the left or socialists or populists made to just have it be, you know, far right strongmen who take away rights and protections and civil liberties and economic rights. And it's interesting that this is where we are. But I definitely would like to come on again and talk about other things in the future and non-political things too, and whatever comes to mind in the moment.
Yeah, I mean, maybe next time we could talk about like what political actions or even just personal actions you plan on taking to get through the next 4 years and what we can do to build community and support each other.
Yeah, sounds great.
All right. Well, thanks, Kyle, for talking to me, and I'll talk to you later.
Yeah, I'll talk to you later. Thanks for having me on.
You're welcome. Bye.